What's up, gang? Andrew Cooper here, aka Coop a Fiasco. This is Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco, and baby, we made it to Friday. We got through the Monday show where we just kind of go through the usage. We got through the Tuesday show with waivers, Wednesday trades, Thursday lineups. Today we get the fun part. We get a guest. We're going to talk about maybe some bets, maybe some props, everything that's fun here. And guess what? Today one guest that I love, a guy near and dear to my heart, man, because when I first started doing this, anybody that's, goes on Twitter and tries to talk about football knows that when you first start doing it, people don't respond well. They don't know who you are. They don't care. This guy, man, from the very start, he invited me on his shows. I was going on one of the first like legit shows I was going on regularly was the Goat District with him and JD and the gang. Love this guy, man, Dan Williamson. But this guy here, Theo Gremminger, he is up and coming, crushing in the space, now over at Player Profiler. So without further ado, I want to bring this guy on. Heather, get him on in here. Let's go, baby. Yeah, keep him small like that. No.
Yeah.
Go back.
Shrink my head. Shrink my head.
That's the idea. That's like the Donald Trump move where he makes you sit in like a little tiny chair. When you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the Vladimir Putin, you're on the far side of the table. That's what I do to my guests to show dominance. So
got to do it.
Put him back in the little tiny one, Heather. But anyway, how are we doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I mean, I love podcasting with you, Coop. We crush it every time we're on. And I got to say, you put together a wonderful show sheet. Your show sheet game is top notch, just like everything else you're doing in fantasy. So yeah, stoked to talk football with you. Recorded earlier today, and now we're just cutting it loose, going through this slate. I'm excited. It's a fun weekend.
Yeah, I knew you were recording with Matt Kelly, the Podfather, this morning, who is like the show sheet king. His show sheets are outrageous, dude. Does he stay up all night doing that stuff? Because it's wild.
So Matt, it's crazy because we do a lot of stuff at Player Profiler, but Matt's like involved in everything. And yeah, he does a very, very good job with the show sheet. Like he's very meticulous, very detail oriented when it comes to his shows. And I think that's, one of many traits that he has. I know you did Mind a Mansion. I know he kept you on there for a long time. And like Sonic Truth today, we were pretty tight. We did was less than 90 minutes, but I know you were on one of those long Mind a Mansions. I've been on one of those long ones. So when you're doing a 3-hour show, you got to really prepare with that show sheet, and Matt gets prepared for like whatever.
He kept me on so long, I was in trouble with my boss. Howard Bender texted me, and he was like, it was like right after they announced Aaron Rodgers is out for the season. He was like, "Where are you? My lead NFL analyst should probably have an article up about Aaron Rodgers being out for the season." I was like, "I'm trapped." I was literally like, I was telling that I was like, I gotta go. I had a show at 1:00 that day, and we finished at we were supposed to record at 10 a.m. and we finished at 12:57. And I popped into my other show, and I was like, "Here I am," But hey, he puts together a good show, and so do you, man. So
appreciate that.
Yeah, here's what we do today on this show for those unfamiliar. We go through the slate, right? I'm going to ask Theo. I'm going to say, "Hey, is there a bet here?" I don't like betting on every single game. I think it's stupid. I personally put in maybe 2-3 prop bets, and I bet heavy on them rather than, you know what I mean? I'll obviously do all the free plays and stuff, the promos and all that. But so I'm going to hit them, ask you what your thoughts are. If you have a bet, great. If you don't, we'll move on to fantasy. We try to get through the slate. We've literally never done it. Chat, let me know over under how many games we get through this week. I think there's 14. Is it 14 games this week? Yeah, because it's 4 teams on bye. So one's already happened. So 13 games. Let me know. What's the over under? What's the line set at? And are we going to hit it? Are we going to hit it? So, and then halfway through, we do an FFPC team. Shout out to our sponsors, FFPC. Use promo code Coop over there. Deposit 35 or more. They'll give you $25. So we'll do one of those. Those are super fun, man. So you want to get into it? You ready to get going?
I'm ready. I'm ready as I'm ever going to be. I don't know how many games we're going to get through, though, Coop, because we're going to go off the rails a little bit.
It's never happened, dude. I had Jake Trowbridge on, and I think we got through like 4 games before we started talking about Oreo cookies or something like that. So it's not happening. First, before we get into it, I want to ask you one quick question on last night with the Eddie Pinheiro kick at the end of the game, man. What were your thoughts on this? So this guy coming into this year, his longest ever was 54. He did kick one of 56. Instead of going for it on 4th and 10, they try and kick a field goal that's 5 yards longer than anything he's ever kicked in a game. What are your thoughts on that, man?
It's just a defeatist mentality. I mean, it seems like, a coach that's kind of lost his fastball when we see decisions like that made. It's kind of like reminds you of like Nathaniel Hackett era in Denver a little bit when you see that sort of thing. Um, yeah, it's like you lost before you even attempted it.
Right. And you can see it on his face. I tweeted a video of Eddie Piñeiro's face. He was like, what did you expect? You know what I mean? Britt with the disrespectful 6.5 on the games. Come on, you got to give us more credit. Toronto Davis saying 9.5 games.
We'll get there, Britt. I got the over, Britt.
Yeah,
Toronto Dave might be right on that.
So the rule is this. The moment I say, okay, we got to rapid fire these, that's when it's over. That means we've lost, and there's only like 7 minutes left. So that's the line. When I say, okay, we just got to rapid fire these, that's when the over or under hits. So let's see what happens here, and definitely get some questions in the chat, guys. It helps us out. Do us a favor if you kind of hang on to your questions, and when we get to a game with a team that you're looking at, when we get to one of those games, throw it in then, because it helps with the flow of the show, right? So we see you guys, Ocean Deebs. Let me get the Twitch glasses out for the Twitch gang. Twitch gang's in the house, YouTube gang in the house. But yeah, let's get right to it, man. Let's get in and yeah, throw your questions and try and time them with the game. So first game, Colts at Patriots. Spread is 1.5, 43.5 point over under. That's the last I saw. If you saw something different, let me know. And is there a bet there for you?
No, I don't really see an obvious bet in this one. I think it's going to come right down to the wire, and the total seems pretty good.
Right. I actually like this one. I've been having this argument. I like this one for showdown slate. I'm actually going to write a showdown article, I think. Just, not even scheduled, just for everybody out there. But I like when the games have a lot of ambiguous players. It's boring when it's a single slate game and it's like Dolphins versus 49ers and there's like 4 guys that even get the ball. You know what I mean? Like, so I like this one, ambiguous slate. Let me ask, first one, no Josh Downs. So we're going to see Isaiah McKenzie. Historically, this matchup is kind of crazy because his best ever game came against not only the Patriots, but against Miles Bryant. So we're going to get that matchup here. I mean, but McKenzie's not a guy you can add and use in like redraft, right?
No, I think you'd have to really be chasing it. The Patriots have not been very good against slot receivers this year. Like they've given up like 14 points a game or something, I think, to the slot, which is pretty high up there. But McKenzie, you're really, really chasing it. You'd have to be in like really, really bad shape to have to use a McKenzie, especially in a deep, deep league. I don't know. I think it's going to be very consolidated. I think Pittman's going to get everything in handle. I think you're going to see some downfield targets to Pierce, and I think you're going to see a ton of running back touches with our boy JT very much leading the way in this one. I think the great thing about the Colts is they're a very easy team to predict this week.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So Alec Pierce, do you have any interest in Alec Pierce? He plays so many snaps, right? I'm sure if you go over to Player Profiler and, where you guys, it's awesome the way you have everything laid out. You go to click his name. I'm sure he's like top 10 wide receivers in route participation, probably, right?
Yeah, so he's a big cardio guy. Like Alec Pierce loves getting his cardio in on Sundays, right. And a lot of people take Sundays off, but Alec Pierce still gets that cardio in. It's interesting though, because I do think, I wrote about him last week in my sleepers column when it looked like Josh Downs was going to miss the game. Josh Downs ends up playing, leaving the game early. Now Josh Downs is going to miss. Alec Pierce, he's your gut shot guy. Like I'd much rather play him than an Isaiah McKenzie. McKenzie, you're playing for like the floor. Pierce, you could see him getting behind a defense and get like a 65-yard touchdown catch and maybe get 2 other catches and you maybe hit a little bit more of a ceiling outcome. So neither one is a great bet, but I'd much rather bet on Pierce. Pierce also had a couple of games last year where he was usable. He had a nice little stretch with Matt Ryan. So I don't know. We haven't seen him and Minshew Magic connect, but maybe this is going to be the week. But I'm not betting on it. More of a DFS type play. And
a showdown, right? Like he's big, he's fast, but they haven't done it yet. Slashy, see you in the chat there. We're not going to comment on that, but it's pretty interesting. I don't know. I don't even know if that's him, but it's it's an intriguing video for the folks that have seen that one. On the Patriots side, J.C. Jackson not on the trip due to discipline. Last week he got benched for the first couple drives because he was late on Saturday. I mean, this is something Belichick's done a million times. Malcolm Butler, all these situations. So what are you going to do? But for fantasy purposes, Pop Douglas. Is Pop Douglas a guy that you've been rostering and starting, or are you not on the pop wagon?
I've been on the pop wagon. I had him high up in my waiver wire rankings like for a couple weeks now. This week we still included him, but he went over like a threshold in a lot of leagues he's rostered. But he had 7 targets. He had 7 targets the week before, So he's had predictable usage where, he's going to have a 10 target game at some point. Last week it was a little bit disappointing because you saw Juju have very similar production when we thought last week could have been the big Pop Douglas game against the Washington team that's been really, really generous. But I don't know. I think that Douglas, he's going to be a very predictable player every week. The Patriots just don't have the weapons. And Coop, the reason I think that he's in for a couple of decent games is they keep trying to get him the manufactured rushing attempts too.
Right.
So it says to me like they believe in Pop Douglas and they just don't have the horses in New England. And it's also, he's a younger player. He's got speed. I mean, they have so much like stagnant, older like Jags on this team. Get Pop Douglas the touches. I'm going to use him in a couple of places this week. I'm not like thrilled about it, but I'm expecting him to get me a 12-point game type week. Like last week, maybe he breaks off to a 15-point week, but I do think that like he's got a built-in floor and they need him. It's not the worst matchup this week against Indy either.
Yeah, you got to get him in the showdown slate. He'll be in my showdown article for sure. And you mentioned like those plays are so crucial, especially in PPR. The one read plays, like the only read plays, the handoffs, the screen passes, right? Like a guy like Evan Engram, that's what separates him from all these other tight ends is that when you call screens and he's the only target on the play, that's like guaranteed production. It creates a floor. He leads all tight ends in that. So speaking of tight ends, last thing on this game, Mike Gesicki ran 40 routes last week. Henry ran 39. That's out of 47 total. Pop Douglas ran 38. So technically, these tight ends led the team in routes run. Are they back on the menu? I know our guy Toronto Dave in the chat loves when our boy Hunter gets in the hen house with a little touchdown. So I don't know. Are these guys possible streamers this week? Or are you just avoiding it?
I'm trying to avoid this situation like whenever possible, but I think that if we're self-scouting, using Gesicki more makes sense, but I don't trust anything on New England. I trust Ramondre Stevenson, and to an extent, I know what's going to happen with Pop Douglas. Other than that, I don't want any Patriot action.
Right. Let's assume Robert Woods is out. Got a question in the chat here from our boy Perman. He says Noah Brown over Pop.
It's a ceiling versus floor argument. If I'm looking at my team and I know that I really just need 10, 12 points and I'm good, then I'm definitely going Pop. But if I need somebody who can break off a long touchdown, like Noah Brown is kind of like Zay Jones was last year with Robert Woods out. Like he's got the athleticism. He's coming off a heater, and CJ Stroud is the truth. So like I don't mind using Noah Brown this week. I think they're both fine to use if you're in a spot.
All right, there you go, dude. All right, enough about that game. I think that game could be okay, but still, there are better games on this slate. Next one up here, maybe not a better game, but Titans at Buccaneers, 1.5 point spread in favor of the Buccaneers, 38.5 point over under. Any bet here? Any action you're taking, or should we just talk fantasy?
I kind of like the over here. I think that this could be an over environment. I think that it looks like a game where you want to just run the hell out of Derrick Henry and try to like go in and take the air out of the football. But Tampa has shown that they can get into these sort of games like we saw last week with Houston. I think the Tampa offense is pointing up. And I also think Will Levis is going to come in there, especially after that Pittsburgh game. You give Will Levis a longer week to prepare. We saw what Houston was able to do against that secondary. I think it's an over environment. I think these teams are going to push past 45 total points pretty easy. And it's, a below 40. I'm on it.
Nice. Okay. Well, let me ask then, is this a Hunter Henry game or a Tajay Spears game? Like, do you think the Titans will be playing from ahead at certain points or keeping it close?
I think that they want to use Derrick Henry, and I think that's going to be the plan. But like we've seen, Coop, like there's less of hey, I'm going to impose my will on you and run Derrick Henry, even if I'm down, 7 to 10 points. I'm going to just keep just running the big dog. Like I think you'll see some Spears this week too. It all depends on how well they do with Henry in the first half. But like Spears should be on every single sleeper article. Like this is a fun one for him. There's there's not a whole lot of available targets. And Spears, we have been seeing him get those targets out of the backfield. This could be a fun one. We saw, I don't know. Houston didn't really use the running back, so there's not like a whole. Or excuse me, Houston. I don't know.
They're missing Damian Pierce. Singletary running up against Vita Vea, brick wall.
Yeah, style. you can't really look at that one. But I don't know. For me, I'm just waiting for that Tajay Spears pop game. and I think it could be coming. But that being said, like they're going to try to go Derrick Henry, and it's going to be a lot of D hops, and they're another team that's very predictable right now, which we got to like.
All right. I want just a yes or no on this one. All right. Are you a Will Levis guy?
Yes.
Oh, let's go, dude. I mean, he's fun. Big arm. He's fun.
Yeah.
All right. On the other side of the ball, Baker Mayfield, is he a QB1 range player this week? I mean, there's obviously the caveat is no Jalen Hurts, no Patrick Mahomes, no Tua, right? So it's like it's easier to be a QB1 this week, but yeah.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield's right on the QB1 line. If you want to try to rank him out, he's going to be somewhere between quarterback 11 and quarterback 15. So he's an option to start for sure.
Oh yeah, dude. Trey Palmer, he's got a little bit of neck issue or illness issue, but if he's a full go, is that a guy that like we like to categorize these guys as redraft plays, like redraft starts, redraft stashes, DFS plays, dynasty stashes, and obviously it goes from redraft starts to redraft stashes to DFS to dynasty, right? Like which one of those boxes would you put him in? Because some, the guys that are in the top box fit every box. But if there's some guys that are just dynasty guys, and that's it.
I put Trey Palmer more into a guy that I'd want to have as a dynasty stash. I think he's got the profile and the speed to kind of pop. I really wouldn't want to have to trust using him this year unless we had weeks where Mike Evans was missing. Like I think a lot of people went out and added Trey Palmer when Mike Evans was injured and then kind of held him through the bye. And there was hopes that you could have some contingent upside. I just really wouldn't trust him. Tampa Bay, I think it's a lot of Mike Evans. It's Cade Otton. It's Rachaad White. Those are the guys you want. Chris Godwin, we'd like to see a bounce back game. And that's pretty much it. I don't want to try to go chase it with Palmer.
Okay. And so from the chat quick, on the other team, with Burks out, no Kyle Phillips, no Nick Westbrook-Akine probably.
Yeah, I'm just not into it. It's a tough team to try to find, and also with Will Levis, you bring up like the big arm. Like I think he's going to throw to whoever's open, and it's difficult to kind of predict which receiver that would be. There'll be a secondary target besides D Hops and Spears and a lot of Henry, but I wouldn't want to try to play a guessing game of who catches the touchdown.
Yeah, Chad, if you want a DFS play from this team, it's Chigakonkwo, especially over on Yahoo. He's only $10, which is the bare minimum. That's the equivalent of being 2,500 on DraftKings. To put in perspective, he's 5% of your budget on Yahoo. He's 8% on FanDuel. So if you play on Yahoo, get him in there. Last question on this game, Cade Otton. Thoughts? Are you in? You out?
I'm in on Cade. I had him in my article last week, and Cade Otton, like he used to be my. And you're the tight end whisperer, but he was my.
I know all the answers already, Theo. I'm just checking to see if you did your homework.
So Cade Otton was like the guy who I would refer to as my break glass in case of emergency tight end. But now it's a little more than that because he's had 6 targets or more for 3 straight weeks. And last week he had his 9 target game, the best fantasy game he's ever had. So like Cade Otton still got a little upside there. He's a second-year player and Baker Mayfield seems to like him. And we don't have, again, there's not like a whole lot of like guys, siphoning off targets from Cade. I think you ride Cade Otton. It hasn't been a great matchup for tight ends against Tennessee. No. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to have another week of 6 targets. And if I get 6 targets, I'm a playable tight end almost.
Right. And I'll tell you what, they did trade away Kevin Byard, right? So this is not the same defense it was all year. I know they're letting up the 4th most points versus the tight end, but, conditions have changed a little bit. So
yeah,
we'll keep an eye on that. And I will tell you this, Cade Otton, for me, the way I categorize him is before he was kind of a handcuff where if either wide receiver gets hurt, now he's viable. But he kind of took it to another level, to the level where I kind of put Dallas Goedert, where he's a handcuff plus. He has standalone value, but if either wide receiver goes down, now he has difference-making upside. I see no difference from what Cade Otton is than what Dallas Goedert has been before he obviously broke his arm. So that's my take on Cade Otton. I just wanted to see what your take was, and you did good.
I traded Dallas Goedert in a dynasty league this week, Coop. You might like this one.
What you got?
I traded Dallas Goedert and Quentin Johnston. I got myself a Michael Pittman, and that's a team where I've got – shout out to your tweet this week because it made me smile. I have Kincaid and Laporta on that team, so I was already running pure, and now I got myself a Pittman. So yeah, that's a get rid of Goddard. Goddard, you've never been the biggest Goddard guy. It's a
no.
He's kind of it's like a Ponzi scheme almost, just waiting for those points, and now you got to wait another month with him being
They
injured.
keep telling you,
Yeah,
they keep saying this guy has never finished. Dude, he's never in full PPR. I don't think he's ever finished top 10. In
No.
half PPR, I think he's finished like 8. I mean,
Yeah.
it's injuries, this, that is what it is. But I'll tell you, I love that trade, man. And of course, Michael Pittman, I'm sure on your player profile, if you look at wide receiver route participation, he might be number 1, right? He's like 99% on the year. Plays every snap. We love that player. So,
Love
all
Pittman.
right. Love him, dude. All right. Saints at Vikings. And we have a question in here already on that game from Sean. So let's hit that question first. Do I trade my Addison for their Downs? He also has Justin Jefferson.
I don't. I understand the argument for Downs. Downs has been on a heater, but at the end of the day, the I just can't get rid of Jordan Addison. I think at the end, Jordan Addison's still going to have spike weeks when Justin Jefferson comes back, and I think his spike weeks are going to be higher than Josh Downs. And it's just a bet on the offense. I like that Minnesota offense with Dobbs behind center more than I like that Indianapolis offense.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, dude, like Downs is not playing this week. How
Yeah.
many hurt wide receivers can you load up on, brother? So be careful with that. All right, Saints at Vikings. I don't want to talk about Taysom Hill. I'm just tired of talking about Taysom Hill. We've talked about him ad nauseum. If you want to hear me talk about Taysom Hill, go check out the show I just did yesterday with Justin Boone. We talked about Taysom Hill. It's only like a 25-minute show. We talked about him for 5 minutes. He's good. You can start him. Absolutely. You have my permission to start him over anyone you want, right? So go right ahead. But in my leagues, I have guys like Laporta and Kincaid because everybody out there tweeted, thank goodness for these people. Cheers to the people that tweeted rookie tight ends could never be good because they were wrong and it helped us out. So cheers to those guys. I don't need to worry about Taysom Hill in my leagues, but you can start him in your leagues. You have my permission. Alvin Kamara, are you worried about him at all? I mean, you can talk about Taysom Hill in that context.
It certainly has been kind of a very annoying 2 weeks. I don't think I'm like ready to say worried. This past week, though, we did see the route participation like drop below 50%, which was really weird. And you have seen Jamal Williams have like an annoying presence. So you have Jamal Williams, you've got Taysom Hill, you've got like just a lot of like bodies out there. But at the end of the day, you're going to have another Kamara game. I mean, the targets alone, it was like 8 targets, 14 targets. Then he had another 14 target game, and then these back-to-back 5 target weeks. So I think it's more of a blip on the radar screen than this is what it is for the rest of the season.
Also, I'll take 5 targets, dude. I'll take 5 targets and a handful of carries any day of the week, every day.
Yeah.
Right, he's in your lineup no matter what. So people are like, "Oh, Wall worried." What are you worried about? Shut up. Put him in your lineup. Like it's Alvin Kamara, right?
Yeah.
So all these wide receivers, there's a question that makes it difficult, and that's this: if you were making a DFS lineup, I always find myself looking at these games, being like, "Oh, you know what? I think I want to start a Saints wide receiver." Are you the kind of person like this week versus the Vikings? It's a good spot. Do you pay up for Olave? Do you go middle of the pack with Michael Thomas? Or you pay down for Shaheed? Like, what's your strategy for DFS?
For DFS, I'm a Shaheed guy. I'm paying down for Shaheed. I think Shaheed is exactly the kind of player you want to look at in like a big tournament type setting because he can go off and he's cheap. And at the end of the day, we've seen games that have been Shaheed games, and that could be one of them this week. I mean, he's had games where they're manufacturing running plays for him, and he's had a pretty decent amount of targets, and he's had some spike weeks. So I'm going Shaheed. I think Michael Thomas is like probably the least exciting one for me. Olave scored last week, but it hasn't been great for Olave. It's been a kind of a tough go in multiple games. But Shaheed, I'd rather pay down, build my lineup elsewhere.
All right, I feel you on that. I'm in with that. On the other side, KJ Osborne may be playing, maybe not. I don't know how he's going to play after that hit he took, but I think it looks like it's going to be the case. Everyone, Alexander Madison, you kind of know where you need to start him with Cam Akers being out, and you're starting Hawk anyway. Unless I guess the thing is there are people that took Hawk and Laporta and Hawk and Kincaid, and this is the one spot where I actually would start the rookies. I don't like the matchup with Demario Davis and Honey Badger, and Dobbs is kind of he's still learning the playbook. So,
and also the threat of Dobbs running the ball as he's learning the playbook and getting like you didn't see that with Cousins, where Dobbs with this team and this offensive line, like you saw 60 plus rushing yards last week. In Arizona, he kept having these weeks where he was over 40 yards rushing. I think you're going to see a couple more of these like 50, 60-yard rushing weeks. It's exciting for Dobbs, but it's less exciting for all the other Minnesota players. Just that threat that this could be a Dobbs rushing game.
right? And I think the one that gets hurt by that the most is Alexander Madison because you just don't. You want a QB that's willing to dump it down. Kirk Cousins is perfect for that. If K. Osborne is out, would you rather go with Brandon Powell or Tristan Jackson? That name is so hard for me to say, dude. I've been trying. I've been just in the shower. Tristan Jackson. It's just too much going on there. But
Brandon Powell. I like Brandon Powell. He's sneaky.
okay. Good. All right, let's clear the deck on some quick questions in the chat. Mile High Luke wants to know: start two. No explanation on these because we got to fly here. James Conner, Musgrave, Nico, or looks like Marvin Mims.
So Nico's banged up. Nico would be the one I'd want to play as long as he goes. And then I'm rolling with Connor. I think Connor,
Right.
this is a good game for Connor to come back with. And then I'll say if Collins does not come back in an FFPC contest, I would go Luke Musgrave. Musgrave had his first touchdown catch of the season last week. I don't know where you at on Musgrave, Coop, because I'm starting to get a little optimistic for second half Musgrave.
Yeah, the thing is, since Watson came back, it's been a little diluted. Everyone realizes that. That's the problem we run into. But as you and I both know, every FFPC contest is tight end premium. So Musgrave is a decent option in that realm. Do you think Fournette plays? I haven't really seen any news on it.
I haven't seen any news on it, but it totally makes sense for him to play. This would be a great game for him to come out and make his debut. They were so inefficient running the ball against Cincinnati last week. I mean, neither one of those guys cracked 3 yards per carry. This will be a perfect Fournette game. So I'm hoping we actually see some Fournette. But if Fournette doesn't play, then it's a James Cook game.
You go, dude. Somebody in the chat saying that Harrison Smith hasn't been good this year. He's also hurt. Like I don't know if Harrison Smith is going to play this week. To be honest with you, I don't think he's practiced yet this week. He just had a veteran day off. He's fine. So there you go. Okay, and I think that's about. Oh, we got one more. Pick two: Javonte, Ridley, or Amari Cooper. From Eric Cat.
I'm going Javonte for sure.
Yep. Javonte. I was so out on Javonte, and now I'm in, and I feel like now I'm the one pushing back on everybody. Like I was like, "Oh, well, he's too dangerous. Draft this guy. I'm worried about this guy." Now he's getting ramped up the same way that Breece Hall was, and now I have people being like, "I don't know." I'm like, "I was the one that was out. Now I'm in. Like, what's going on here?"
Well, why would you change anything if you're Denver? You get the biggest win you've had in forever, and it was with Javonte having like 30 touches. So I think it's Javonte's season right now, rest of the season. Now Ridley Cooper is an interesting one. I the difficulty of the matchup against Baltimore kind of gets me off of Cooper a little bit, but I still might go Cooper. I think him and Ridley are just super, super close here. I know that San Francisco has been a little more generous. I'm going to bite the bullet and maybe go Ridley, but it's hard to put Cooper away after those two big games. I just worry about this Baltimore-Cleveland game just being like such a stuck in the mud type game. And, I think San Francisco-Jacksonville, on the other hand, to me, like you have that healthy 45.5 point total. I think that game could go over. You could have a plus 50 points scored. There's no way, even if they play 5 quarters, you're not going to see Baltimore and Cleveland go for 50 points. No chance.
Yeah, I'm with you then. Go Ridley. And Baltimore's been one of the best teams versus the pass anyway. Even though I like the way Watson looks lately. All right, we're now about halfway through the show. We've gone through 3 games. So
that's not bad. That's not bad. Not bad.
That's actually terrible. Let's
we talked about Javonte though. Javonte counts though. That's 4 games.
That counts. Yes. So when we get to that game, we will forego the Javonte discussion.
Good.
All right. 49ers at Jaguars. Last I saw was, let me just make sure this, +3 and in favor of the 49ers on the road and 45.5 point over under. Any bet there for you? You willing to bet this one?
49ers off a bye. I like them there. Going on the road and taking care of business in Jacksonville.
Good. CMC, crazy high usage. CMC is a smash spot for me this week because the Jaguars are letting up 7.5 receptions per game to running backs. That's the highest of any team. And, they let up 14 to Kamara. It's kind of the nature of having a decent run D, and then they just kind of let you do that. So CMC, I think, is going to catch a bunch of passes this week. I think it's a good spot for him. What are your thoughts on George Kittle with Debo coming back?
I think it's fine to use George Kittle. I think Jacksonville's let up 4 tight end 1 weeks, and we're just trying to use anybody we can against that Jacksonville secondary because I think the spike weeks are going to happen. And I just hate the idea of sitting a 49er trying to play it out in my head. I'm starting Brandon Ayuk, I'm starting Debo, I'm starting Kittle. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just throwing them in there.
Good. Awesome. We already talked about Ridley. This Jaguars team, like you're starting ETN, you're starting Ingram, so we actually can get through this one pretty quickly. Chat questions real quick. Dotson, Taysom, Watson, London, or JSN for a flex, just one. London did get back to full practice.
God, that's a really tough one.
It sure is. I'm not starting Taysom.
I think I might go Jahan Dotson in this one. I like the way he's looked, and he's done it for a couple weeks now. So I think I'm going Dotson in this one.
All right. Richard Hernandez wants to know Laporta or Amari Cooper. I'm going to answer this one real quick, and it's Laporta for me. We're worried about Amari Cooper with this game, and Laporta, this guy is averaging last 3 games 9.3 targets a game. Like when we talk about flexes, we're talking about like Kincaid and Laporta. We have to forget the label of tight end for some of these guys and just understand that they're getting targeted at an elite level. It's almost like, would you start Mark Andrews? Would you start Travis Kelce? We need to start thinking about these guys in that fashion. Kincaid that way while Knox is out. Laporta just in general, flat out. Like Jameis Williams didn't show up.
Laporta is going to be a starter for you no matter what your situation, probably for like the next 8 years of your life.
Right.
Laporta is awesome. And like what you said, like you just start him. If Laporta was a wide receiver, he'd still be way up there. And Laporta goes up against the Chargers this week. This is a game Laporta's going to find the end zone.
Here's the craziest thing. I've been going back and watching some of the Laporta highlights. He's had some opportunities to break tackles, which is his specialty that he's just barely missed on. Wait till this guy starts breaking tackles, man, because that's like his thing, right? He broke 23 in college. There's one highlight from the Iowa bowl game where he broke like 6 on one play. So just wait.
That's like the one every single person tweeted out in the draft process because it was just so ridiculous. Yeah. But he's our dynasty tight end 1 overall. And I think he should be a top 3 tight end in your rankings, no matter what your format. You can make a case for him being tight end 1 overall in redraft this week.
Yeah, for sure, man. Next game, Packers at Steelers. The Steelers favored by 3 at home, 38.5 point over under. Any bet there?
I don't love the game. I would lean towards Pittsburgh at home with the 3, but it seems kind of like a sucker play. Pittsburgh's been outscored for the season, and like it's a big testament to how good a team Mike Tomlin runs. But they've been like kind of like a little bit of smoke and mirrors. Whereas Green Bay coming off of a win this past week, obviously it helped that they were going up against Brett Rippon. But Green Bay, I think the sharp play is probably Green Bay +3. It just seems like sucker city to get you on Pittsburgh. A 5-3 team at home, only -3. I think it's probably the road dog.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is that I can't bet it now. Don't bet it today because, or at least if you're going to bet it this evening when we find out Jair Alexander didn't practice with a shoulder. Quay Walker didn't practice with a groin. You can't bet this game until we know if the Packers defense, like that's their whole defense. If the Packers defense is going to play, then you can't bet it. So don't bet it today. If you're going to bet it, then bet it tomorrow. I'm going to hit you with some quick rapid fires on this one. Keep the analysis to a minimum here.
You got it.
Dobbs or Reed? Tough question.
Reed.
Okay. Let's go with Deontay Johnson or George Pickens. Half PPR.
Still got to go Deontay Johnson because of the target volume.
Yep. Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren?
Give me Jaylen Warren. How can you not give Jaylen Warren increased usage based on how good he looked last week? And I get killed on this one, Coop, because I'm a Warren guy, and you get like the football purists saying you don't know ball because Warren's balling out because of what Najee Harris is doing. No. Warren's the guy. You got to go Warren.
This is literally, I'm so glad that you and Jacob Sanders and everybody, you got your new Tony Pollard, man.
Yeah.
Like you needed to have a new one, right? Because Tony Pollard he won. Tony Pollard won. He finally got the job. He's going to have good games, and that you guys needed a new one. You needed a new.
And before this, we had the Austin Eckler versus Melvin Gordon. This story usually ends in our favor. We're usually not wrong on this one. The tape doesn't lie. He's the ball. Jaylen Warren's a baller.
He's a baller, man. The only problem, of course, is that Jaylen Warren just turned 25 like 2 weeks ago, and Najee Harris is on the team next year. And also, they could pick up Najee Harris's 5th-year option, which they love to do just to mess with us. So once again, it's a perfect setup for you guys. It'll give you guys 2 more years to complain. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you guys, Jay Sanderson, Marcus Mosier, Kevin Tompkins, like, and I love it, dude, because you guys are right. The efficiency's there, the metrics are there, the machine learning stats are all there. So like, it's only a matter of time. But football coaches, especially guys like Mike Tomlin, that like to, put their glasses on and say, well, the standard is the standard, like they are going to stand in the way for 2 more years, probably, right?
That's
maybe
right. That's
maybe
right.
3. So yeah, good for us. Okay. Aaron Jones, I think, is a smash spot this week. You look at the Steelers, right? They are letting up 133 yards per game on the ground, bottom 5. Aaron Jones just had the big game last week where they came out and said, we're going to unleash this guy. And then they came out this week and said, hey, just because we used him a lot last week, that doesn't mean we're not going to do it this week, right? They straight up said, we're going to use this guy a ton. So Aaron Jones is a smash spot. And I want to take this opportunity to let's just jump over and make our FFPC lineup because I want to have Aaron Jones in there. So folks, let's do it, folks. If you are not signed up yet for FFPC, I don't know what you're doing. Go to myffpc.com. Use promo code Coop. They'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more. I suggest depositing 45 because that gets you to $70. These the games are either $35 buy-in or $200 buy-in. Right there. We'll make it easy for you. You click that little QR code, get you all set up right there, or use promo code Coop. This is the deal here. All these other DFS weekly contests or whatever, they got all these like you got to do a draft or you got to do salaries. You got to do all this complicated stuff. Not here. It's set up just the same way that their playoff challenge is, the famous playoff challenge where you can only pick one guy per team and you got to make it through the whole playoffs. Well, they do that too for weekly, and you go in and you can pick anybody you want. The only rule is that you can't pick 2 guys on the same team, which I think is awesome from both standpoints. 1, you can make monster crazy lineups. 2, you don't get run over by the stacks. In DFS, how many times, Theo, does it happen where it's like you didn't have Mahomes and Kelsey, so you just lose? You're just a big loser, right? Here, you cannot stack. So let's get in there. First thing I want to do, which I just mentioned, is I want to get I like Aaron Jones. So I'm going to go over there, beep, boop, boop, running back, search, Aaron Jones, boom, he's in the lineup. That's one. Is there somebody this week that you think is just in an absolute can't miss smash spot that we got to get in there like right off the bat?
Chalk, but I'm going to go Josh Allen. I think he's got to be in this. I think Josh Allen is going to be QB1 overall, and I think he's going to do it by like a considerable margin. I think he's going to go nuts.
I love that. You know why I love that? Because now we don't have to decide between Kincaid and Laporta.
Yeah,
because
it's Kincaid season for sure. He's already a top 5 pick, and now we get our stack.
No stacking. So that's the thing. That's the beauty, though. Yeah. That's the beauty is we don't have to think about it. Because I was gonna debate that. Like, do we do Laporta? Do we do Kincaid? But since you want Allen, we can't start Kincaid, so we go Laporta.
Easy.
Game's easy, man. It's nice. I like that.
Simple game.
Yeah. I mean, it's so simple. Let's just put Christian McCaffrey in, right? Because
that also rules out Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's in a great spot. Yeah,
I know. So we can tinker with that, but it's like, where are we going to go though? Because it's like Hawkinson, no Kelsey. It's
well, I think we got to go. We got to run with the heater here, and the heater is CeeDee Lamb, and that gets us our Dallas Cowboy. I think you got to go CeeDee Lamb, even though it seems very chalky. It's chalky for a reason. He's had 30 targets the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, let me ask. So coming back on the Detroit game, because that's going to be a high scoring game. Do we want to have Austin Eckler or do we want to have Keenan Allen?
Gosh, that's a tough one. I think that at the end of the day, who's going to be chalkier now comes into a little bit of a factor. I think that Eckler is probably going to be used more often than Allen, but I don't know. My initial lean would be Eckler, but if you're feeling Allen, we can go that way.
No, let's go Eckler. I don't care. We went Allen last week and he was solid, but
he was fine. Got 10,000 yards. 10,000 yards. That was pretty cool catch.
Amazing,
pretty cool catch. Pretty cool catch.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you've watched the show before, but the rule is that there's games with 10 people where the winner gets a Fantasy Pros entry. There's 30 people. That's this one where the top 3 places get money, and the winner obviously gets like a couple $100. And then there's the $200, 100-man ones, and that's when you get like crazy payouts and stuff like that. So for this one, the rule is if we come in third or second, if we come in third, you and I buy some drinks at the expo, right?
And Coop, you got to come on with Billy Muzio and I for First Class Fantasy, and we'll do a playoff contest one together for this FFPC.
We talked about that when I was on.
We're doing that. We're definitely
doing that. If we come in second, Now it's drinks for you, me, Billy, and a couple of people. And if we come in first, that's enough money to get a bar tab for both, the Fantasy Alarm crew and the Player Profiler
We're
crew.
buying out the bar.
And anybody that drops a name in the chat that we use, if you go to the expo, you're locked in on that. So give me some names in the chat that you guys think are absolute slam dunks this week. And if we use one of those names, you're on the list, VIP list for when we go to the expo. So what other players? So let's think about individual games. What are some of these games that we
I think it's a Mark Andrews game. And I think we go with Mark Andrews, get our Raven. They're a healthy 6-point favorite, and I think that Andrews. You don't want to go with Andrews?
I just worry about Cleveland. I know that last time he played Cleveland, he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But dude, they've only let up 155 yards to tight ends this year. That's 100 less than the next highest team.
So if
we go Andrews, then we can take Laporta out and put Amon-Ra St. Brown in.
Well, or if you're really worried about the game, then we get our exposure with the Ravens, but with the GOAT, and we use our kicker on Tucker, whereas everybody else is going to be using Mandrews. But maybe it's a game where Baltimore struggles, but we get 5 field goals.
That's the play. That's it, 100%. I like that much better. Tuck. Yeah, let's get him in there. We have Lamb in already. Chase is out. Do we go Mike Evans against Tennessee or Chris Godwin?
I don't love either this week. Why don't we come back to that one? What about, do we want to go with let's
Mixon
think here.
It's Houston.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mixon is probably the play because of all the wide receiver injuries.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so Mixon's in. Has Chat got anything for us? Chat wants McBride. We can't get too cute with McBride. We're going Laporta or Andrews. We can start anybody we want.
Well, here's one to consider.
Ooh,
little Tank Dell action.
Ooh, you want to sneak him in? Chat says Deontay Johnson. What do you think about that?
I think Deontay's fine. I just don't know if we're gonna have like the ceiling outcome, and we can't rely on a touchdown in the last 3 minutes of the game again.
Yeah. Okay. So Tank versus Deontay. You have Tank Dell.
Well, for this sort of a contest, I think Tank is interesting because Nico Collins banged up. We're already seeing Tank Dell has had 3 20-plus point weeks so far this season, and he's coming off of a complete smash game last week. So I think they go back to the not go back to the well, they go back to the Dell this week, and we put him in that lineup.
Now we have to put him in.
You got to put him in there.
Now we have no choice. We need a Saint. Are we going Alvin Kamara? Are we going Chris Olave? And Daniel's right, dude, with Deontay Johnson. Like the targets are they're there.
Well, then if you want to go Deontay, then we could go Deontay. I don't know if there's we've used a lot of like the really, really smashy type picks.
Let me give you some names I like. So we can go Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson for the Jets. We could go with a Tampa Bay wide receiver. We can go with Travis Etienne, or we can go with a Saint. We probably should go with a Saint. Out one of the like Kamara, Olave, somebody, right?
It seems like against Minnesota, it screams like an Olave game. You were talking up Kamara having a bounce back though, and just start him. I could go either way, Coop. I'll defer to you on that one.
Go with Olave, and we can, if we feel like pivoting, we can pivot. All right, and then we just need one more player here. I say we go with the chat. Let's give. I like Daniel's argument on Deontay Johnson. Let's get him in there. Let's give him a chance at getting beers with us at the expo.
Let's do
it and get him in there. And then we just need one more. We need a defense, so we can go Tampa Bay versus Titans.
What about I kind of like using that Las Vegas Raiders defense. I think that could be a one where Wilson really, really struggles, and I don't think everybody's going to be on them.
Yep, that's it. That's the play. All right, that's the squad right there, man. Daniel Caps Keenan, shoot me a DM on Twitter so that I got you locked in case we do hit big. Everybody else out there, if you think you can do better than this, not only can you get in the same contest as me, I'll even give you the number. It's right here, 65061. Get in there and try and play against us. See if you can win. Use promo code Coop. They'll give you 25 when you deposit 35 or more, or just use the QR code that our producer Heather is going to put up on the screen right now. Look at Heather. She's so quick. She's the best in the biz.
On
So there you
point.
go, folks. On point. We got to get back to the games here. We're still on the 1:00 games. So not necessarily rapid fire time now. All right. So it's not, we haven't hit the over under or anything like that yet. Chat, we're going to get to your questions. So throw them in there. If we have time, we're going to come back and hit them. We probably won't. So if you're a Fantasy Alarm member, go to the Discord and get those in the Discord chat. Every single question there gets answered. Browns at Ravens, we kind of already talked about this one. So I just want to ask you, are you betting this at all? Personally, I look at the spread, the line, and see 6.5-point favorites for the Ravens. Are the Ravens that much better than the Browns?
I think they are. I think that the Ravens are for real. They've been an absolute buzzsaw in 2 out of the last 3 weeks. They played 2 NFC playoff teams and completely like just demoralized them. And I get the fact that we get these AFC North games and sometimes it goes off and we don't necessarily, you get a little bit of unpredictability there, but I think it's time to start talking about Baltimore as a Super Bowl contender and a potential team that can win the Super Bowl. I think they're for real, and I think that they handle them. And Vegas is telling you exactly how good they are with this line. They made this line huge. They seems like they're begging for Cleveland money. I actually think it's Baltimore and the under. I think both are plays here. I think Baltimore is going to control the game, and it seems like a kind of game that could be like 20-10, something like that. I think it's going to be a game in control, something like that.
Hey, shout out Chef TPTB. That's our boy there. He did throw Tank Dell in there, so you're in the running too, man. Sorry, I missed that, but yes, you ran on Tank. Cedric Tillman dynasty play, DFS play. What are your thoughts? He ran a ton of routes, but he's in the DPJ all exercise rule now. So
I like him. I like him in dynasty though. I think he's an interesting guy to stash in dynasty. I don't trust him in redraft.
okay, Keaton Mitchell, where we like again 4 boxes: redraft start, redraft stash, DFS play, dynasty stash. Which box can Keaton Mitchell make his way up into? I should have it be
any box you want to check off because Keaton Mitchell's a baller.
Oh,
That's my guy. That's my guy. So I'll say
dude.
if I have to bet on one of them, I will say he is a redraft stash for this week because I think that right now it's a running back by committee. But I think when we get 3 weeks from now, I think Keaton Mitchell's going to be in your starting lineup. And the only reason that I'm not like, oh my gosh, this is some guy that's like an incredible dynasty asset is the fact that he's an undrafted free agent. This could be a smaller window of time, but he looks the part. And he had a top 6 running back week last week. So it's like guys that hit on that usually don't completely disappear. I mean, he looks awesome. And this is a guy that we were on in the preseason. This is a guy that Billy and Muzio and I had on every single team. And then we ended up cutting some shares when it happened. So it's like, it's a little frustrating. We're able to add him a little more this week, but we've been on him for weeks. The guy's a baller. Looked great in the preseason. Let's go, man. Keaton Mitchell season. Take some time off, Justice Hill. Go take a vacation.
Take a little breather. Yeah. So yeah, that's my thoughts as well. That's like you rarely get shots this deep and guys like that. You might as well go big. So I'm in on that. Next game, Texans at Bengals, 6.5-point spread, 48 point over under. Unless that's changed. No, I'm still seeing 47 point over under now. Anything there? I'm staying away from this one, betting wise.
If I'm betting it, I'm going to take the dog. I'm going to take Houston on the road and take the points. I think that Houston's trending up, and CJ Stroud back in the state of Ohio. Like, roll with it. 6.5 too many.
I always know it's crazy. You notice that like certain players will be out and the line will move like crazy, and it's usually obviously quarterbacks. But sometimes you'll see like a linebacker get ruled out and the line will move like crazy. Like, why are wide receivers paid all this money if they get ruled out and the line doesn't move at all? Like, so it never moves with the wide receivers. It never moves, dude. But they're getting paid ridiculous money, right? Like, so the Bengals are just going to show up without both their wide receivers now potentially, and the line hasn't changed at all. Then who cares, right? Like, trade them away.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's kind of crazy, man. It boggles my mind, dude. And I ask Billy Muzio and ask Anand Nanduri because they're plugged into the markets, right? And they just tell me, they're like, it doesn't matter. And I'm just like, why do you mean it doesn't matter? What do you mean? Like, I don't know, man. I'm not like, I play props, I play fantasy, but it's like, it's crazy to me. Anyway, we already talked about Tank Dell. Dalton Schultz, So he's a smash this week against the stone worst defense versus tight ends. They lost both their safeties in free agency. I'm a little worried about his playoff schedule. Titans, who are top 5, Browns, who are top 1, and then Titans again. That's the playoff schedule for Dalton Schultz. I mean, if you have Dalton Schultz, are you just saying this is my guy for the rest of the season, or are you going to stash somebody else?
I think it makes sense to stash somebody else, but I think you ride the heater for as long as you can.
Yes.
CJ Stroud likes him, and this was not like a touchdown dependent guy. Last week we had a 10 catch game. Like, it's wild. He's going over 125 yards receiving. Like, Dalton Schultz, just ride this heater. And if you've got to worry about the playoff schedule, it's a little bit of a champagne problem. Those things kind of work themselves out. And there's also, you get defensive injuries too when you get late in the year as well.
They traded Kevin Byard. Here's my thoughts. Ride with Schultz, right? And then at that point, there are a bunch of teams that are going to be out. They're not making a bunch of waiver moves. Right before the Titans game, add a second tight end, right? Because here's the thing. If he struggles against the Titans, you're not going to want to start him against the Browns and the Titans again. So just add a tight end at that point. If he does well against the Titans, then he hypothetically should do well against the Titans again in 2 weeks, and you just roll with them. So, but I just say that week, that's the week where you sit down and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to grab somebody just in case, right? So that's my plan there. Joe Mixon, I'm betting on a bounce back. Do you think the inefficiency is a problem for him, or do you think he can bounce back here?
Well, yeah, I definitely think the inefficiency is a problem, but he's got the volume. And again, with no Higgins, it's going to consolidate everything just a little bit. And then the fact that you've got no real threat behind Mixon among the other running backs to get touches to. So I think it's kind of a begrudgingly, we know that he's not quite the player he was in previous seasons, but you still play him. It's still the Bengals, completely rely on Mixon, and he's going to have a couple of big games in him.
There you go. Well, okay, folks, we got to get out of here. Heather's got to get out of here at the 55 mark to go over to Brit's Blitz. We can stay right up until the marker here, but I got to say that we got to go rapid fire now. So Brit came into the chat and I asked for over under on how many games we get through. She said 6.5. We got through 7. So
there you go, Brit. We hit the over.
Toronto Dave had too much faith in us. He said it at 9.5 and taking the over. We have to go rapid fire now. So this is the official moment where I say we did not get through the whole slate, and we will go rapid fire. So I'm just going to hit you with questions again. Yes or no's.
Yes.
This guy or that guy's if possible. And then, but if you need to elaborate, then absolutely do it.
Cool.
So Falcons at Cardinals plus 1.5, 43 point over under. Jonnu or Pitts this week?
Jonnu.
It's crazy. Dude, and Pitts, like if I ask you, all right, let's take all the tight ends in the league, rank them by most targets this year. Where do you think Pitts is on that list?
I'm not 100% on this one. Let me know, Coop.
Just take a guess, dude.
It's too depressing to even talk about this. I can't even talk about this right now. All I know is it's the grossest thing ever when I see Jonnu Smith. We're in week 10, and he's like tight end 11 right now in PPR.
Here's what's going to blow your mind. Pitts on that list is actually 6th.
Oh, there you go.
He's just doing nothing with the targets. And also they haven't had their bye week. So if you sorted by per game, he moves down, but it's just crazy, man. It sucks, dude. I hate it.
It's awful.
Bijan, we can bag Arthur Smith, but everybody's been doing it. So let's just skip the Falcons here. Kyler Murray, are you starting him in his return? Stash? You'd rather stash him probably, but start. Is he a tight end? Is he a QB1 in the rankings?
He's right there on that same line. If we're considering starting Baker Mayfield, then you got to consider starting Kyler Murray at home in a spot he can win. I'm not scared of this one. Like, they wouldn't have traded Josh Dobbs if they didn't think Kyler Murray was ready. I understand the tanking and all that sort of stuff. But Coop, if we talked 6 weeks ago and I said, is Kyler Murray coming back this year? You would have said, I don't know. And now he's starting. So I think it's Kyler Murray's season. I think he's going to come back. I think he's going to play well. And we've never seen this guy fail to put up fantasy numbers. His low in his rookie season, he was quarterback 11 in points per game. Last year was not a great year, and he's still a weekly starter. So
in points per game, he's top 5 all time.
Yeah.
Giants at Cal. So you want to have McBride, you want to have James Conner, you want to have Kyler Murray. We like all those guys. Marquise Brown as well. Giants at Cowboys. I mean, this is going to be the spread now. The last spread I saw was 17.5. Will the Giants cover that?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Tony Pollard, he's in the same boat as Joe Mixon. Would you rather have Tony Pollard rest of the season or Joe Mixon?
Tony Pollard.
There you go. Jake Ferguson's come around. We liking him. Brandon Cooks, any interest?
No.
Commanders at Seahawks. Sam Howell has kind of been a top 5 quarterback. Do you think he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback, like rest of the way?
He's got 5 QB1 finishes. I think Sam Howell is a QB1 rest of the season.
Top 5 quarterback?
No, not quite top 5.
Yeah, that's once you start doing them, once you start saying names out loud, there's no way he's top 5, right? Like you start saying Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Josh Allen. It's like Justin Herbert, Tua. It's he's obviously not top 5. Zach Charbonnet, go.
Zach Charbonnet here to stay. He's going to be an annoying presence at the very least, in my opinion.
Yeah, there it is. Jets at Raiders. With the Jets, you know what you're doing. It's their defense. It's Breece Hall. It's Garrett Wilson. That's it. I don't want to hear about anybody else. With the Raiders, trust level on Devontae Adams. Is he a wide receiver 1? Is he a wide receiver 2?
He's a wide receiver 2. With AOC behind center, he's a wide receiver 2. I think if you treat him as a wide receiver 2, you're going to feel a lot better at things. When you start treating him as like your top 8, wide receiver 1 locked in, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. It's a little bit older. It's a young quarterback, and he's not quite there yet. So I think he's call him wide receiver 15.
What's your interest level in Michael Mayer in Dynasty? So, like, here's how I'm going to phrase this. We love Laporta. We love Kincaid. Would you rather have Luke Musgrave or Michael Mayer in Dynasty at this point?
I'd probably rather have Luke Musgrave, but I'm not like uninterested in having Michael Mayer in Dynasty. I just think he's got a little bit less of a ceiling than certainly the big 2 and maybe with Musgrave. But I do think that Mayer is going to be a starting tight end in the NFL for 10 years. Dan Williamson compared him to like a Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
And
it's a great comparison.
And that's kind of where you're at.
Well, that's the thing with the Hunter Henrys and the Michael Mayers and the Zach Ertz is they need targets. They need touchdowns. They need targets because he doesn't have the speed. So I call those guys window guys, right? So in one crew, you have the guys that can be focal points. That's where I think Laporta lives and Kincaid. Say Waller is a focal point. Mark Andrews is a focal point. Travis Kelce's a focal point. Then you have the window guys where somebody gets hurt. Somebody gets traded if they're maybe doing a bridge year and they have a window where they could be a top 2 target on the team. And we want to start them for that period. So he's a window guy to me. Heather had to take off. Producer Heather, thank you so much. She's going over to Brit's Blitz. You guys in the chat, if you had questions today, make sure you stay on the channel because Brit's going to do a show after this and she'll hit on every single question. With this show, we kind of get in the weeds. We're doing matchups. We're going through everything. We're making an FFPC lineup. So hang tight for Brit's Blitz. If you had questions, get in there with those. I'll be hanging out for that show. She does a great job. So sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. We do questions all week long on this channel. Today, we're trying to break down this slate. And guess what? We have one last game here. Couple minutes left. Broncos at Bills on Monday night. We talked about Javonte Williams. If you had to start somebody in a showdown slate, you're going to go Sutton or Judy. Let's say price is about even.
Sutton. I'm going Sutton.
Marvin Mims, man. Let's talk Marvin Mims real quick, dude. Like I'm stashing him in Dynasty, but
1,000,000%.
Do you think he's worth holding on rosters in redraft if you have 6 or fewer bench spots?
He is for this week because it's the self-scouting during the bye week. You're going to see if there's anything for Jaleel McLaughlin and Marvin Mims. You had a week to get those guys more involved. You have a game where you're going to have to play in a potential shootout environment to keep up with Buffalo. It's a perfect opportunity to see if either one of them has ramped up usage. We've seen it with both of them. We just need to see it like whatever they do out of the bye. I'm a big believer in post-bye week usage.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was like and the trade was set up perfectly. There were trade rumors for Jerry Jeudy. They said that he could be traded, and Sean Payton even said that he had trouble getting Mims and Jeudy on the field at the same time. The trade would have done us a lot of good here. We got to jump out. Tell everybody where they can find you real quick.
You can find me on Twitter at the OG Fantasy. You can find my written work at playerprofiler.com, and you can find all of my podcasts at Player Profiler, First Class Fantasy, Press Coverage, Sonic Truth Dynasty Podcast, Dynasty Life, Goat District. I'm in the streets, Coop. I'm dropping.